The date was February 1st, 2026. The Crypto.com arena in Los Angeles was a fortress of flashbulbs and high fashion. But inside the tinted windows of a black SUV, the vibe was surprisingly quiet. Billie Eilish sat leaning her head against the window, her hand intertwined with Nat Wolff's. She was wearing a custom, structured onyx gown that shimmered like oil on water. This was her night. She was the favorite to sweep the big four categories. Billie, whispering, "My hands are sweating, Nat. Is that gross? I feel like I'm about to jump out of a plane." Nat, warmly laughing, "It's not gross. It's human. And hey, if you feel like you're falling, just remember I'm the one holding the parachute." The world had watched their relationship grow from "are they or aren't they" rumors in 2024 to one of the most rock-solid pairings in Hollywood. Nat was the grounded actor, the guy who made her laugh when the industry got too heavy. Tonight, however, Nat seemed even more focused than usual. He wasn't just there as a plus one. He was there with a plan. The award show was a marathon. Billie took the stage 3 times for performances that left the audience in stunned silence. By the time the final award, Album of the Year, was announced, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. When her name was called, the room exploded. But as she stood on that stage, clutching the golden gramophone, her eyes didn't wander to the cameras or the screaming celebrities. They stayed locked on Nat, who was standing in the 3rd row, cheering louder than anyone else. Billie, into the mic, breathless, I don't even have words for this album. It saved me, and to the people who saved me while I was making it. Especially you, Nat. Thank you for showing me what peace looks like." After the show, the typical move is the after-party circuit. Vanity Fair, Republic Records, the works. But as the clock struck midnight, Billie and Nat made a break for it. They ditched the red carpet chaos for a vintage 1970s convertible Nat had parked 2 blocks away. Nat said, "I love the Grammys, B. But I love the quiet more. Let's go to our spot." They drove up into the Santa Monica Mountains. Far above the smog and the neon, they reached a secluded overlook they called The Edge, a place where you can see the Pacific Ocean on one side and the entire grid of LA on the other. The air was cold. The kind of cold that makes you want to disappear into someone else's coat. Billie, shivering slightly, "We're crazy, you know that? We should be drinking champagne with Dua Lipa right now, and instead, we're standing on a cliff in the dark." Nat, "Actually, I think this is exactly where we're supposed to be." Billie, "Look at me." The tone of his voice changed. It went from playful to monumental. Billie turned, her oversized jacket slipping off one shoulder. Nat wasn't looking at the view anymore. He was looking at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. "Nat, tonight, the world gave you a bunch of gold trophies for your art. And they should. Because you're a genius. But I don't want to just celebrate what you do. I want to celebrate who you are. The girl who reads in the back of the car. The girl who's scared of spiders, but brave enough to change the world." Nat reached into the pocket of his tuxedo. He didn't hesitate. He dropped to one knee on the dusty gravel of the overlook. "Nat, I don't need a red carpet. I just need you." Billie Eilish. "Will you spend the rest of your life making sense of the world with me? Will you marry me?" The silence that followed was long, broken only by the sound of the wind. Billie's breath hitched. She didn't scream. She didn't cry immediately. She just stared at the ring, a deep, moody sapphire surrounded by black diamonds. It was perfectly her. "Billie, are you serious?" Nat, "Yes." "Oh my God. Yes." The morning after, they didn't post a picture that night. They didn't call their publicists. For 5 glorious hours. The engagement was a secret that lived only on that mountain. They sat on the hood of the car until the sun began to bleed over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of bruised purple and gold. Billie kept catching the light on her finger, laughing every time she remembered it was real. "Billie, so I guess I have to write a new album now, huh? Something a little less heartbreaking." Nat, kissing her hand. Take your time. We've got forever. By 9 a.m., the world found out. A grainy photo from a breakfast diner in Malibu showed them sharing a plate of vegan pancakes. And there it was. The ring. The internet went into a meltdown, but for Billie and Nat, the noise didn't matter anymore. The 2026 Grammys would go down in history as the night Billie Eilish became a legend. But for her, it was simply the night she promised her heart to the man who loved the girl behind the music. The 2026 Grammys were supposed to be about the music. And for the first 3 hours, they were. Billie Eilish had already collected 3 trophies, her hair styled in a sleek, silver blonde bob that shimmered under the stage lights. Beside her, Nat Wolff looked like he'd stepped out of a classic noir film, sharp, silent, and intensely focused on her. But as the final credits rolled and the world's biggest stars headed to the glitzy after-parties in West Hollywood, Billie and Nat did something that caught everyone off guard. They disappeared. No red carpet photos. No paparazzi shots at the club. For 4 hours, the biggest star in the world went completely off the grid. What happened in those 4 hours wasn't just a celebration of an award sweep. It was the beginning of a whole new chapter. While the rest of the industry was sipping champagne in crowded rooms, Billie and Nat were flying down the Pacific Coast Highway in a vintage 1970s convertible. The wind was whipping Billie's iridescent gown, the one everyone was calling the dress of the decade, but she didn't care.
Nat,
I think I left my Grammy for Song of the Year under the seat.
is that
allowed? Can you just leave a Grammy on the floor of a car? Nat, grinning. It's your trophy, B. You can put it in the glove box for all I care. Tonight isn't about the gold on the shelf. It's about this. They pulled off at a jagged overlook near Malibu, a place they'd nicknamed The Edge. It was a spot where the city lights of LA looked like fallen stars in one direction, and the infinite black of the ocean stretched out in the other. The silence there was heavy, a stark contrast to the screaming fans and the bass-heavy music they'd escaped. Billie, it's so quiet here. I can actually hear my own heart beating for the first time all day. Tonight was a lot, Nat.
it was.
Everything. Nat, taking a deep breath, it was. You conquered the world tonight, Billie. But the thing is, I don't care about the world. I care about the person who stays up until 3 a.m. arguing with me about which Hitchcock movie is the best. Nat reached out and took both of her hands. His palms were cold, but his grip was steady. Billie looked at him, her eyes widening as she realized the mood had shifted from celebration to something much more
Permanent.
Nat, I've had this in my pocket since the rehearsal on Tuesday. I almost did it when you won Album of the Year, but I wanted it to be just us. No cameras. No critics. Just Nat and Billie. He lowered himself onto one knee. The gravel crunched under his suit. He pulled out a small, charcoal gray box and flipped it open. Inside sat a deep, midnight teal sapphire, custom cut to match the color of the ocean they were standing over. Nat, Billie, you are the most honest person I have ever known. You see the world in colors no one else can see. I don't want to just be your partner. I want to be your home. Will you marry me? Billie froze. Her hands went to her mouth, her breath hitching in her throat. For a long 10 seconds. The only sound was the waves crashing against the rocks 100 feet below. Billie, you're serious? You're doing this now? With my hair a mess and my makeup half gone? Nat, softly, I've never seen you look more beautiful.
Billie, yes.
Yes, Nat. 1,000,000 times. Yes. They didn't call their publicists. They didn't post a ring shot to Instagram. Instead, they sat on the trunk of that old car and watched the sun start to peek over the mountains. It wasn't until 7 a.m., when they stopped at a tiny, hole-in-the-wall diner for coffee and hash browns, that the world found out. A fan took a shaky photo of Billie reaching for a sugar packet, and there it was. The sapphire. The promise. The headlines the next day were all about the 4 Grammys she'd won. But for Billie, those trophies were already gathering dust on a shelf. The real prize was the weight of that sapphire on her finger. and the man sitting across from her at a sticky diner table, planning a future that had nothing to do with fame and everything to do with love.